Hi and welcome to Eldar Army. This episode's all about the Wraith Knight. This guy is a monster. He's been a bone of contention in 40k ever since he arrived in 2013, and he's a problem to deal with. If you're fighting Eldar and you want to know how to take him out, this video will help you. It won't help you a lot, but it will help you better than nothing. Also, if you're playing Eldar and you want to know which one of the 112 loadouts you should take him in, then this video will help you. I've broken it down into two builds that I think work really, really well. And also, there's a real big sort of section on how to take it out. I won't lie to you, they're not easy to take out, and a lot of armies struggle. Anyway, let's go straight into the history of the model. Well, as I just alluded to, this model came out only in 2013. It was a 6th edition Eldar model. Came out at the same time as Riptides. Came out at the same time as those dark Grey Knight. I can't remember what they're called. Machine things that Grey Knights get. And he was meant to be like a kind of doubled up Wraith Lord. Really, he was just a bit bigger, a bit stronger, twice as much wounds, twice as much price, and a bit more Daka. And in and of himself was not a massive shift. What happened in 7th was he got an enormous buff, became a gargantuan monstrous creature. He got stomps, he got feel no pain for free. He's kept all his other stats, and quite honestly, he's closer to a Titan now than he was to a Wraith Lord then. The whole mechanic around him, the fact that he gets Hammer of Wrath, the fact that he gets all these special rules versus poison attacks, which were previously his big weakness, mean that really a Wraith Knight is heavily undercosted in the game. Okay, so just to go back to the history of the model again, because I've changed subject and I shouldn't. In 2015, they brought out a thing called a Skathach Wraith Knight. So if it wasn't bad enough before, it's worse now. They are better, not necessarily as good in all senses, but overall better choices for your Wraith Knight. So what you've got with the Skathach, which is a Forge World edition, was such a big buff to an already heavily buffed unit. But I will also talk about, because I'm talking about the model, some of the design choices that I made as I assembled mine. If you've not assembled your model yet, I would urge you to look at this because it will help you. Okay, one of the things about the Wraith Knight, and it's real quick, I'll just go through, is that most people don't know this, but actually it comes in a pack of 3 guns, a shield, a sword, and 5 arms, which is great. Makes you can make 5 arms, right? Now, the gun middle here is missing for one of the guns. So you get 2 gun barrel centres, you get, which I've used one here fully, so this is what they normally look like. So I've cannibalised, in order to keep them all together, I've cannibalised 1.5. So I don't know if you can see that, but I've got half of an inside and half of an outside bolted together. I'd recommend you to look at doing this. It doesn't make them particularly weak. As you can see, they look fine. I mean, they're not as good as they should be. They should have an outer cowling here. I'm going to show you. They should have an outer cowling here and here, and they don't. But equally, it's on the upper side, and you're not probably aware of it until you see another one next to it. Also, what I've done is because I've been able to keep the arms and get an arm. A lot of people magnetise the middle section. I would avoid that. Magnetising here is not a good idea for me. Just practically speaking, if you touch them, they fall off, things like that. But also, I've managed to magnetise and pin. So I've got a pin here, which hold the magnetised pieces in place, which is a really useful part of, really useful addition, because what it allows you to do, I just found out it just dropped in there, which I need to glue. What it allows you to do is put as many arms as you like, and if you go into bitz websites, bitz box, things like that, they all come with lots of spare arms. I was able to get, I think I've got 10 arms, I think, or 8, and I was able to get them all for like £3 or £4 for a pair of arms, which is really next to nothing. That's because the pack comes with 8 arms, like I say. Right, so straight away to the history model, what I was able to do, because I did the Wraith Knight like this, is keep all the options available. So 2D cannons, magnetised away, shield and sun cannon, thank you very much. I won't bother with the pinning, but the pins do work, they lock it into sort of position. And then finally, sword and shield. So that gives me 5 arms, if you like, of play, which is what I wanted. So then the Skathach Wraith Knight came out, and I thought, I don't want to spend 500% more money just to get a pair of guns, so I made my own. Now, I would urge you to look at doing this. You can buy these arms on eBay for, like I say, about £4 or £5 each. They tend to be in quite large numbers. I never struggle to get them. What I've done is here I've made the fusion gun out of a Eldar missile launcher, that long piece that comes out the front of a Falcon, which you should have in your bits box, and then 2 back-to-back shuriken cannon with some green stuff and a little bit of a shield to give it some shape. Okay, so they're called, I can't remember the name of the fusion gun they get. It'll come to me as we're talking. I do know it. But these don't look too bad. They're not brilliant. They're not going to win me any design awards or anything. They don't look too bad. It allows me to present them if I want a slightly different, rather than just put the D cannons on and saying counts as fusion gun. The last thing as well is these Deathshroud spinners that they have, which I've made out of 2 fire prism. When you get the fire prism, you get I can't remember that. I knew I was going to forget. Shadow Weaver, I think it's called, tank, which gives you these options, and I've just got a few spare in my bits box. So what I've done is I've just stuck one on the back of 2 arms. It cost me very little, and I'm happy for this to be counts as my Skathach Wraith Knight. Let's go into the pros and the cons. So, what are the pros of taking a Wraith Knight? They're incredibly cheap. They are conversant with the current sort of highest level cheese metas in the game. So if you're playing Tau, or you're playing some sort of Chaos, kind of re-rollable 2-up, invuln, Tzanich, whatever, the Flamers, these kind of thing, where they can re-roll their wands on failed save throws and stuff like that. You can actually, if you're playing Eldar, you can always trump it. You can always do something against whatever you're being sent. So if somebody's got a particularly nasty list, you can always add a Wraith Knight and see how it works. It certainly won't make it harder for you. They are good at killing everything. They have 112 confirmations. I don't know if any other asset in 40k, individual choices go up that high. So what that gives you, just so you can see what I'm talking about, is there are 7 ways you can take a Wraith Knight. Okay, you can take it with distortion, heavy D cannon. You can take it with star cannon and shield. You can take it with sword and shield, as we're looking at here. You can take it with the fusion gun, which I forget the name of again. You can take the fusion gun and a shield. You can take the spinners, and you can take the spinners with the shield. So that's 7 choices, and each of those 7 choices has 16 shoulder confirmations. Okay, so you can take 1 shuriken cannon, you can take 2 shuriken cannon, you can take 1 scatter laser, 1 shuriken cannon, you can take 1 scatter laser, no shuriken cannon, nothing at all, etc., including star cannons. Okay, so I obviously don't want to be redundant, but the simple truth is I don't think there's anything in 40k that's even close to as configurable as this. Most people miss that about the Wraith Knight, but I sort of spotted it quite quickly, that its configuration changes mean that if you're going to buy one, that you are going to probably be future-proof to most changes of the codex. Don't get me wrong, they could be rubbish in 8th edition, but the simple truth is that with the amount of weapon swaps you can do, the probability they're out of the game in 10 years' time, I don't think so. So in overall terms, I think it's not a bad investment of money. I think it's a big unit. It's nice to have a big guy in your army. It's effectively a Titan, so you can play at APOC games and you can play down at tabletop games. Its points value is not so excessive. If they've got Imperial Knights, you can take a Wraith Knight. Yours is going to be better. If they've got a Riptide, you can take a Riptide Wing. You can take one of these guys. Yours is going to be better. If they take one of those gargantuans that lock into the ground, I can't remember, X something suits, what they're called, that yours is going to be at least as good, if not better. And that in a nutshell is why Wraith Knights are good, because they're an antidote to other people's cheese. A lot of people say Eldar are cheesy, and they are. If played cheesy, they are cheesy. There's just no getting around it. But other armies are also cheesy, and if you've got the option of taking a Wraith Knight, you're never going to feel out of pocket in the current meta. You're never going to feel shortchanged. And there is such a variety of weapon outloads that you can pretty much tailor your Wraith Knight to take on any kind of threat, and it will be able to function at it. So they're the the pros. It's undercosted. It's heavily versatile. It's incredibly hard to kill. I mean, just go into this. If you give this guy a shield, and this is what I'd recommend you looking at, shield is very important. You can actually make him have about 13 wounds. So what that means is, currently he comes with 6 wounds, which is good, but not amazing. It's just good. But he has a 5-up invul with his shield, and he has a 5-up feel no pain. Because he's toughness 8, unless it's very specifically denying, you know, like D, he's going to get his feel no pain, okay? So he is not vulnerable to very much. 13 wounds at toughness 8 is hard to deliver. So to give you an idea of last cannon shots, if the Space Marines were shooting last cannons at BS 4, they'd have to shoot, I believe, something like 30 shots to statistically take him down. That's last cannons. You know, you don't get 30 last cannons in an army. He can go down in a go, but the amount of firepower it would take to kill him in one turn is about the same as the cost of him anyway. And what I mean by that is, even if he gets killed in turn 1 by an amazing amount of firepower, the firepower that they focused on him isn't going anywhere else on your army, and all it's done is taken like a 5th of their firepower out of the game for a 5th of your points cost, for example. So let's say he's in a 1500 points game, he's going to be about 5th of your points cost, and it's going to take a 5th of their firepower to kill him. So the worst case scenario is you come out and the rest of your army, 1200 points, has not been touched by what would be a withering hail of fire, and then you get to shoot back. So yeah, you're down, but you're not out, and he's done his job that way. So even in the worst case scenarios, he does his job. Okay, so what are the cons for taking this guy if he's undercosted and he's this good in every criteria, and he is so much for benefit? Let's go through them. Well, the biggest con regarding the Wraith Knight is his notoriety. He is going to make people upset. In fact, I would go so far as to say he's the biggest upset in 40k in the last 5-10 years. He is so potent. He has so much extra potential compared to his peers, and he's very undercosted. I would say that he should be around the 550 point mark, I think. Although there was some argument to say with Grav that may not be really true, but I still go back to that. If you look at Tyranids and stuff and the sort of the points that they have, between 5 and 550 for sure, maybe even 600 with different loadouts. He's very powerful, and he causes upset. The stomps alone are excessive. You know, he can insta-kill pretty much anything that walks on the table, and he's very hard to get rid of. It's not impossible to get rid of, but he's hard to get rid of. So let's go through, in part of the cons, how we get rid of a Wraith Knight. Okay? To get rid of a Wraith Knight that's properly tooled up, you really only have 3 choices. One is Grav. Now, not all armies get Grav, but Grav is the tin opener for this guy. It pops him like nobody's business. He is absolutely, no question about it, vulnerable. He will die to a round of Grav, especially heavy Grav. If you're taking Grav bikers and normal Grav guns, you might struggle. But if you take in a round of heavy Grav and a duodechy company, well, let's just see what happens. Okay, so if I take, I haven't got Grav because I've got Space Wolves. So what I've got instead is my proxies. I don't like proxies, but I don't have normal Marines. If I'm sort of like Ultramarines, I've drop podded in. Okay, that's 20 shots. Reroll misses with the Devastator Doctrine, which you would take. Okay, so rerolling misses. And they've got Grav Amps, of course. So there's 1 miss of all that. They wound on 3-ups because he's got 3-up armor. Okay, so, and there's a Grav Amp as well for the 4 that didn't wound in this case. Okay, so 1, 2, so 18 wounds. So now he's got 2 5-ups. He's got his 5-up normal roll and 5-up invul. Okay. I'm just dumping him. I'm not really bothered about cock dice and stuff. Okay. So he's failed. He's passed quite a few. No, he's past 4. So now he's got to roll that many 5s and 6s. He's got, yeah, he's dead, isn't he? He's going to be dead, right? So you've killed him 1 shot, right? Great. It's the only thing that does that to him in the game. It's got to go to him. It's got to be potted down. It's got to, realistically, you've got to have the right doctrines to do it. And he dies. Then whatever was around here will kill these. So you've lost your investment almost certainly. There may be 1 guy left at the end of turn 2, but I suspect by the end of that alpha by the Marines, he'll be dead. Your other choice is D. Okay, so you can use Grav or you can use D. D is probably the better of the two, but you're more of a you're hoping for a 6. But D3 is good against a wounded creature because with any luck, if you get two or 3 D shots hitting them, you're going to get 2 or 3 D3 wounds. He's probably going to go down. Obviously, he's got save, but you know he might go down. So I would say, all in all, D's probably better, but Grav definitely works. But Grav's got to be like for him. You know, you've got to take that almost for him. Whereas D, you would take and you would use it for the rest of the battle, and he would probably survive whatever it was that was shooting it. If it killed him in that shot, that would still be on the table, still doing loads of stuff on the for you for the rest of the game. Grav probably won't, probably be gone. I mean, you may get lucky, but you understand what I mean. The problem with Grav is, as well, is he can choose not to deploy. So because he's a jump creature and because he's gargantuan, he doesn't have to deploy on the board. He can just land by a deep strike. And what that means is that if you've got Grav and you've got an alpha strike drop pod to get your Grav to him, which is what you need, he can just refuse to deploy. And certainly if he's got an autarch, he can reserve manipulation roll and hopefully, and maybe even come in turn 3, which you might think is a disaster, but it's not. Some of his configurations are so potent, even 2 turns is bad. 2 or 3 turns is bad enough. So you can actually, if you're an Eldar player and you're quite smart, you can actually get around the Grav quite easily. Whereas D's harder. D, you're probably going to see him deployed against D. So that's for that reason why I think D's probably your optimum. But not many armies have access to D, which is a massive problem. Your third option is Strength 10. Strength 10 purely because it gives you 2-ups wounds. And that is invaluable against Strength 8 and Toughness 8. And you need to have that. You're starting to get into small change if you go out of those 3. Strength 8, and it's got to be AP 2 or more, but it won't make a difference because as long as it's AP 3, it'd be fine. But Strength 10, you want to try and avoid him in close combat. There are certain units that can pull it off. If you do Wolfen, for example, which I've got here, they can pull it off, you know, but it's 50-50 for them, maybe slightly in the Wolfen's favour, believe it or not. So if we do that now quickly, Wolfen charge, let's say, they're all initiative 5. So what that would mean, well, not him, sorry, he's initiative 6. So what that would mean is that because they've got hammers, it doesn't really matter. I would take hammers, by the way. So you say, well, okay, the big guy's going to hit first. He's got 6 on the charge, and they're strength 7, which isn't bad. We're actually strength 5, but he gets +1 for furious charge and +1 for the weapon. Okay, so he hits on the 4s, because his only weapon is called 4, which is a shame. So he's hit twice, and he wounds on 5s. Okay, so he didn't get any wounds. And then he would strike back. In this case, he'd have 4 attacks. He wouldn't have his Hammer of Wrath, but that's fine. So he hits on 4s. So he's got 1 hit himself. Rerolling this. Okay, got 2 hits, and they're 2d3. But they're obviously 1 wound creatures. So one doesn't wound at all, and 1 gets a d3 hit, which is 2 wounds. So one of them's dead. Well, he would have been dead anyway with toughness 4. And he gets a 3-up save, which he doesn't make. So he's dead. So they've killed 1. And then he gets his attacks now because he's dead because of the Wolfen special rule. So he gets his 4 attacks because they charged. So I'll do that quickly. So he hits on 4s. So that's a really bad roll. Wounds on 2s. So he's got a wound against him. So we'll do that. We'll do that now. So he gets a 5-up save. 5-up play. So he's managed to keep himself alive through that. And then next round, then you have the 12. Strength 10. So the whole focus is strength 10. Yeah. And you're trying to risk close combat. Most of the big stuff that you get in close combat. Not always, but you know, you can have big cannons and stuff. So hits on So hopefully these will do some damage. Hits, there's 5 hits. Which is a bit unlucky. I think there might have been another one, but and then the 2s. Okay, so we've got, wow. So we're doing really bad. So we've got 3 wounds. Okay, so he's got 1 wound so far. So that's 1 save, and then feel no pain. So that's 2 down. So he's had 2 wounds on him. So he's got 4. So that's the best they can do. And now he gets his stomps. So his normal attacks, and he killed 1. He's now going to do his stomps. Okay, so he's going to do that. D3 stomps. If you've never done stomps before and looked at it, they're horrific. So there's 1 stomp. Okay, so 1 roll on the stomp table. 3. So that's. So let's say there's 3 there. So that would be 3 under the stomp. 3, 7, strength 7 attacks. Okay, so that would be 3 wounds, and then he wouldn't get a save. So, but you 2 would lose a wound, and these 2 would get a 2-up save. In fact, no, I'm wrong. They would get a save. 1 would lose a wound, and 1 would lose. He would get his save of 4-up. I think, because I don't think stomps. I think it's AP. No, it's AP2. So you would lose a wound. So there'd be 2 on 1 wound. Basically, pretty bad. But equally, they can one-shot him. They've got enough strength 10, enough bit of luck. They'll one-shot him if they get in there. If they survive and they manage to avoid the stomps, like they did quite well there, they'll probably tally with him a few goes, and eventually they'll probably lose, but they may win. So I would say there's quite a lot of parity between a squad of Wolfen and a Wraith Knight if you're done right. So that's one of the cons, that newer models, newer units with better rules, with better formation bonuses, do tend to function against him. So that's the 3rd way of taking on, which is strength 10. The 4th way is anything else, fishing for 6s. If you're going to start fishing for 6s, you're looking at poison, you're looking at strength 5, AP 3. They're your 2 things you're going for. As much as you can get, strength 5, AP 3. And as much as you can get. Why strength 5? Because it tends to be cheaper. And if you can get the volume of fire, yeah, go for strength 6. Yeah, go for strength 7. But you're probably paying for that. And you don't need, if you're fishing for 6s, you just, like Dark Eldar, probably take him down because of the amount of splinter racks they can take. So, you can fish for him to go down. But I wouldn't call that a con, but it's just, that's the functional way of taking him off the game. If you do go into combat with him, his stomps will wipe you out. You must split your units into independent characters. This is something that people neglect to do. I've watched people do it. They've charged in with their characters, part of the squad, and they've just been stomped, so this character's dead. You must split off the characters before you do the charge, so that you get the full benefit of everything and hopefully avoid the stomps. He can stomp Primarchs, he can stomp Demon Princes, he can stomp monstrous creatures like Wraith Lords, which is ridiculous, and Dreadnoughts, things like that. So he can stomp stuff that's much smaller than him, which is serious. It's serious because he's gargantuan. Other than that, I would say the cons really are that he can't be everywhere at once, and potentially if you've made him deep strike and he's a close combat, he's not going to be touching close combat till turn 3. So if you can get if the opponent makes a mistake or rolls bad or sees a list and gets freaked out and decides to do what we said, like a deployment off the board and coming on at turn 2, and then it's close combat laid out thing. But obviously there's a lot that the Wraith Knight can do to mitigate that. So we're going to go straight into the builds. Build 1 and build 2. Okay, so build 2. I would take him with a sword, a shield, and 2 star cannons. Why? I actually think this is probably the most, if you want to take him in a low points form, I actually think this is probably one of the most efficient forms, and the reason for this is the D on the sword. You get the shield, which gives you about 13 effective wounds in terms of virtually, gives you about 4.6 invuln, which is good. But you also get a D-sword. Now, against infantry, D-swords are not that good. They're all right, they're going to kill stuff, but they're not that good. So why would you be interested in a D-sword? Well, it's against multi-wound creatures and large vehicles. He can go in there, wallop it with that, and then stomp on it. And the probability that after 2 combat phases that they are still on the board is pretty much 0. Now, against infantry, that's not true. Stomps have to get you out, but you'll kill a lot. Attritionally, he'll kill a lot and probably not suffer much in return. I've seen him kill a 20 squad unit of Green Gene Stealers just by stomping them. But the D might only take 1 or 2 off the board. The stomps take the rest off. but the D is not what you're wanting. The D isn't what you did it for. The D is for there when you have to put him against I don't know, Nurgle flying princes and things like that, that are hovering, and you want to kill him. You want to kill Be'lakor. He'll do it. And there aren't many things in the game that can wallop things that hard, especially with the rerolled. So you've got the best of both worlds. You know what you're going to get. He's going to be able to, he's like a linebacker. He piles in like an American football front, smacks into people, and you know that he's going to come out the other side, because in the next go, after your own assault phase, after their assault phase, he's going to be on the board. So for all these reasons, and the star cannon is really important, people neglect to take these shoulder weapons, partly because of the massive furore that happened at the beginning of 7th, to do with gigantic monstrous creatures having to be able to shoot all the weapons. It was clearly obvious to me that they could shoot all the weapons, but I didn't actually begrudge people saying it, because I did think they were overpowered, but they're overpowered. So you must take something like this. I would normally think, normally you take scatter lasers, shuriken cannon. But the truth is your army's full of scatter lasers and shuriken cannon already. And this star cannon is unique in that it can kill the thing that kills it easiest. It's the best weapon to take out Grav that are coming for him. So for those reasons, I just prefer the AP2. I don't have a problem with people taking other weapons like scatter lasers or even shuriken cannon. But for me, star cannon is the only time I take star cannon, and I would take it on him because it's simply just a reliable big 4-shot bang, and it's not bad to have, especially on top of some of the other weapons you can take. And that's what gives me build 2. Build 2, here we go. This build I would recommend for tournaments. I've looked at all the builds. There are literally 122 of them, but 28 of them actually make sense looking at properly. Of those builds, I would say this is coming out as probably the strongest contender. And the simple reason is, and I had to buy one of these to fully appreciate how big they are, it's this. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. It actually bends under its own weight. I don't know if you can see that. It is the biggest thing you can have in 40k. I mean, there are bigger templates, but really, this ignoring cover is just ridiculous. Oh, but that's not good enough for me. I think I'll have 2. This thing outranges to about, well, I can tell you now, it's 18 inches long. It's longer than 18 inches long. And it is an absolute joke that this is allowed on the tabletop outside of Apocalypse, but it is. So this thing can fire 2 of these at different units, plus the shoulder cannons. And anyone left can still be charged, but better than that, it's got a shunt generator. And because of the shunt generator, it can actually move 18 inches. Now, I know what you're saying, the rulebook says 12 inches, but it's been in fact by GW, it's actually a misprint. It's meant to be 18 inches. So he has an 18-inch webway shunt, then he can fire this thing, and to make it worse, he can shunt out of combat. So he can't be locked into combat if you choose to shunt out. Yeah, you could potentially scatter onto something and go into ongoing reserves, but realistically, with an 18-inch range, you can pretty much pick somewhere where you're not 6 inches from any trouble, probably, and just roll. It doesn't really matter exactly where you land. So the webway shunt generator is absolute godsend in those kind of situations. Slightly more expensive. I would definitely take the star cannon just because it gives you just 2 of these plus 4 AP2 shots. It's horrific. But it gets better. Not only does they ignore cover, they get shred, which basically means reroll missed wounds. Oh, and it's better still, because if you've got monofilament rule, means that if you fail to wound, if you wound on a 6, it's AP2. So it turns this weapon into an absolute joke. Now, it's not brilliant against vehicles, but it won't hurt. It'll do a lot of damage. Strength 7 is enough to do pretty nasty stuff. But it's just the fact there's 2 of them, and it'll kill 18 Marines in a go, no problem. It's really, really, really stupidly good because he can teleport in with this and be massively effective. It is doubly better because it's got such power over close range. And just to give you an idea how big this thing is, okay, this is a normal flamer template, okay, and I want you to see the difference. Okay, so it is literally all the way around more than 1 inch. But that's not all. You can also choose to do a 5-inch blast. The 5-inch blast template this thing gets, and I've lost my, there it is. This is 3-inch. 5 inch is another inch all the way around there. See that circle there? It's that all around. I don't have one, but it's all around. It's basically a dinner plate. It's that big. You can do that. It also has shred. Oh, and it doesn't ignore cover though. But I mean, for goodness sake, it's absolutely, cover is the biggest you know, if you're Eldar, ignores cover is really valuable because not much of your stuff has ignores cover, bizarrely. People will tell me that there are exceptions, and there are. But the truth is, we actually lack ignores cover. We make up for it with overwhelming firepower. So if you've got jinking units, if you've got units that rely on, you know, that kind of meta to survive, like a 2-up rattling or something, you know, that suddenly just does away with all that, you know. And it really, really is ridiculous how much that affects entire. I mean, that'll just kill entire armies. And the shred is hilarious. So you're just not getting away from it. And it's a wipeout on Imperial. Anyone with armor 4 up is dead anyway. But if you've got Marines, you still have to just roll a 6 and they're gone. And they have to save as well if they're not. And you get so many hits, you're going to kill them. So overall, this is the one I would take for tournaments. It's not quite a vehicle hunter, but you can still thump them with his strength 10. So it becomes that towards the end of the game especially. And yeah, overall, I would say this is an excellent build. This is top tier, and yeah, you can look at taking the Inferno lance, I think they're called. You can take the melter because it's got 18-inch. And just to give you an idea about that melter, by the way, it's 4 shots plus 2d3. So let's see what that would have been. So that's 6 shots. Okay, so you can max that, and I got lucky there. But let's face it, you can get lucky in a game. That's 10 shots. Oh, but not all. This is with the, if you went for the Inferno Lance thing. So that's that many shots, plus that many AP2 from the Star Cannon. So just so you know how much firepower they have. And to give you a comparison that, with the D, which do you get D guns, and D guns are good. That's how many shots you get with D. Okay, now you can take the D, and I'll just go back as to why I wouldn't optimize to the D guns, these things. Is partly because you get 2 shots, but with perfect timing and with guide or prescience, they become very, 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 very good. Which leads me now to the conclusion. So in conclusion then, this guy is a horror to deal with on the battlefield. He's undercosted, he's rage inducing, he could probably push people off the hobby. If you've played against the wrong people, it will certainly lose your friends. He can be funny as well. You can take him against people that are like your arch enemies. I've got a friend that I play all the time, and I actually take him to wind him up. But you know, we play each other in that way. He plays heavily optimized, jokey cheese lists with multiple buffs, and kind of so do I, but only against each other as a friend. And I've seen him put people literally into sort of gasps of panic. Like I was playing a 3v3. And when only one other guy at the table knew his rules properly, and when the others started to realise what he was capable of, they just started shaking their heads and going, well, this isn't right, this isn't right, this isn't right. And it shouldn't be right, but he's in the game. He's basically a titan. He was upgraded from a monstrous creature to a gargantuan, and when he was done, that he was effectively made into a titan, like a super heavy walker. He's the equivalent. I would say that in terms of his main strengths, one of the strengths that I would say about him that's hard to explain, but I'll just go into it, is Eldar of Psychic Heavy Army. This character here, when buffed, becomes exponentially worse. If you imagine invisibility on this guy, Grav's not going to touch him. If you imagine just, you know, if you cast Guide on him, if you cast Doom on the unit that's getting one of these, you know, it's horrific. It's horrific how much power and potency you can put out. It is properly mental how much damage he can do for his points. So he's the epitome of buffing. You know, you buff him and you get massively more than you would normally expect to get. He can handle anything on the board. I think there was a guy who did a YouTube of every single conceivable thing he thought to fight it against, and it won every single one. The fact that he creates so much, he actually is the only unit that I know of that single-handedly got entire forums to agree that the rules of 40k were wrong, and that you couldn't take more than 2 weapons and all this, which was just nonsense really. It'd always been more than 2 weapons, but suddenly it wasn't because of him. So he's actually, by his appearance in the game, affected people so much that people were prepared to effectively become irrational and throw the rule board away. I know people watching may have agreed at the time, but the truth is it was something that was clear to me, and I just thought it was bizarre that you would bring it up. But I was happy to not play him with 2 weapons extra. I didn't, in fact, but that wasn't the point. It was more that he was just so overpowered that the people were prepared to go a bit like absent on rules and try to make things up, really, to try and protect themselves. And I understand that, but it's the fact that they're emotionally reacting to it. I've seen a lot of emotional reactions to this guy, and it's not good. So, in conclusion, use him carefully. If you're taking him in tournaments, you know, go for it. Be prepared to deep strike him if you see Grav. This formation, this thing with the this Tempest template thing is, you know, that configuration is just insanely good. And don't neglect, whatever you do, to take these guys. Not necessarily Star Cannon, but something, because he'll be around for a long time and firing them every turn. So yeah, I hope you like the video. Please like it, please subscribe. Also bear in mind that this might be, this is a 7th edition video, 8th edition may come out soon. So if I do, look down in the notes, because you'll see a link to an 8th edition update. Thank you for watching, and this is Eldar Army.